Hey there folks, Scottsdale Travel Chick Sidekick here to present our travel guide on the best things to see and do in and around Rotterdam, the most unique city in Holland. In this video, we'll cover all the top sites in the city, along with the best nightlife areas, and we'll give you the 5 best day trips nearby to consider. Okay, let's go. First up, just a little background on Rotterdam. Although Rotterdam has existed since at least 1300, the city did not assume its current status as a commercial and industrial hub until the 1900s. Today, Rotterdam is Holland's second largest city, and Rotterdam Port is one of the largest shipping ports in the entire world. The city itself is distinct in that it's by far the most modern and architecturally diverse city in Holland, owing to its almost complete destruction during World War II. After the war, the city was rebuilt from the ground up in a forward-looking, modernistic view rather than a view to rebuild its history. With this perspective in mind, you should be aware that Rotterdam has its own charms, but if you're looking for Amsterdam-style canals and old-world houses, this is probably not the best place for you. Before I get to all the sights you'll want to see, let me start with getting around. One of the best things about Rotterdam is how easy it is to get around. Rotterdam Central Station is ideally placed downtown, and it's an easy train ride from either the more regional Rotterdam Airport or the international hub of Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. In terms of regional train connections, Rotterdam is also one of the key stations along multiple major European train routes. For getting around the city itself, there are 10 tram lines and multiple water taxi options, not to mention the usual Uber, taxi, and biking choices. Of course, since Rotterdam, like all Dutch cities, is very bike-friendly, we highly recommend renting a bike to do your exploring. Even the day trips we'll mention can all be done by bike from Rotterdam. Now, let's start covering some of the many tourist sites in and around Rotterdam. I'll start with the sites around the Central Station area. The Central Station is an attraction itself with its unique modern design. It's unlike any other station in Holland and perhaps all of Europe, and represents Rotterdam's progressive idealism and architectural uniqueness. Schiedam Shopping Street begins just a block away and is a main shopping and entertainment area in Rotterdam. In its heyday, it was the commercial street in Rotterdam. Today, it's a pleasant mix of local shopping options and an up-and-coming entertainment area. Fun fact, this street was the very first pedestrianized shopping street in the world when it opened in 1953. Rotterdam City Hall is nearby and was built in 1914 in an exuberant Art Deco style. It's one of the very few buildings that were not destroyed during the war, as Germany wanted to use it for the regional headquarters. Today it remains Rotterdam's town hall and is a beautiful building to explore. It's free to walk into, and there's a monumental main hall with a lot of statues to check out. Just outside the City Hall is another main commercial street called Keukenhof. It's a great way to get between this area near the station and the Blake area I'll mention next. I guess I also have to mention what they call Luchtsingle here too. Rotterdam seems to be quite proud of it. It's just to the east of the Central Station, and it's a 400-meter long yellow pedestrian bridge. Great for Instagram pics, I'm told. Next up is the Blake area. I'd call this the main pedestrian area of the city, with its popular walking street, the old harbor area, and the most prominent indoor and outdoor market of the city in the summertime. One of Rotterdam's most famous buildings is here, the Market Hall. It's a large indoor market with dozens of commercial stalls and small eateries. Taking pictures here is quite popular, not only with tourists, but the locals as well. We're in the Market Hall, and again, it's the largest mural in Europe, supposedly. What's so special about this place?
We got all these restaurants and shops here, and then all of these are apartments.
Just around the corner from the market hall are the Cube Houses and Groot St. Laurent Church, two sites which couldn't be more different. The Cube Houses were designed by a Dutch architect in the 1970s. 55 were originally designed, but only 38 were built. Ultimately, they were not very functional, but they are cool to look at. Okay, we're inside the Cube Houses. There were 38 of them. They said they're supposed to be like snow-capped tree houses was the original name. One unit is set aside as a show cube museum, which you can pay a small fee and take a tour. Nearby is the St. Laurent Church, a large church constructed in the 1400s, and it's the only remnant of Rotterdam's medieval city center. It was heavily damaged during the war, but curiously, Hitler specifically demanded it not be demolished, and it was eventually reconstructed. Today, it's primarily used for events and concerts, and, pro tip, you can climb to the top of the steeple on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Hoogstraat runs east to west from Koolsingel toward Blake Station, and it's a major and very modern pedestrian-only shopping street. There are a few pleasant cafes towards the east where you can people watch, near the market hall I mentioned earlier. Our favorite place was this Poffertje place. You got to try Poffertjes when in Holland, right? In that area as well, there's a very popular outdoor street market in the summertime, on Tuesdays and weekends. The Old Harbor is a short walk away and brings you to an area of the city that feels a bit more historic. It's a small harbor originally constructed back in the 1400s, and the area is filled with historic boats, some being lived on by the locals and others being offered as unique Airbnb options. Dining and nightlife are abundant here too, with some cool options directly on the boats themselves. Next door is the Dutch Maritime Museum with its outdoor collection of ships and harbor equipment covering centuries of harbor and dock operations. Those are two popular central city areas with a grouping of interesting tourist sites around each. But those are not the only worthwhile sites you want to consider. Two worthwhile parks are downtown too. They are close to each other and just southwest of the two areas I've just mentioned. Museumplein is first, and it's a smaller park bringing together many of the top museums in Rotterdam. Here you'll find the Boschman van Beuningen, I think, museum with its European art from Rembrandt to Dali. The Chalbert Museum has expressionist art set inside a modern villa. The art hall is unique in itself, and it has rotating exhibits throughout the year. The Netherlands Architectural Institute is also here with its focus on contemporary architecture and design, and set in a very impressive modern building. And finally, a pro tip here. There's even an outdoor open-air cinema in the summertime. A bit further southwest from the Museumplein is the park. Yes, it's just called the park. Maybe the name is not so exciting, but it's a larger, well-maintained park with beautiful gardens, ponds, and a great cafe to enjoy. But the biggie in this park is actually called the Euromast. It's an observation tower built in the late 50s with a couple of restaurants and viewing decks for those interested in some of the best views in Rotterdam. Now I have one last site to mention before I get to all the sites along the river and dining and nightlife options. It's the famous Santa Claus statue. Created in 2001 by artist Paul McCarthy, Originally, the statue was not well received and was moved around several places until it finally found its home on Endrichsplein. I'll leave it to your imagination if you think this is Santa Claus with a Christmas tree or if it looks like something else. Either way, it gets a lot of visitors and a lot of pictures, and it's one of the top sites in Rotterdam today. Finally, let's talk about some of the things along the riverfront worth your time. For all these, you can easily get around by local water taxi, kind of an attraction in itself. You certainly can't beat the views from out on the river. First up is Erasmusbrug Bridge. This is Rotterdam's famous one-arm bridge and a focal point of design on the riverfront. You can see this bridge from almost anywhere on the riverfront. Hotel New York is just across the river on the south side and was built in 1901, and it was abandoned for more than 20 years. Originally, this building was the headquarters for the Holland America Ship Company, and in its heyday helped hundreds of thousands of immigrants migrate to America. Another blast from the past nearby is the great ocean liner SS Rotterdam, the Grand Dame as she was called. Built in the 1950s and retired in 2000, it's now another unique hotel option. Tours are also offered here. One more specialty site on the riverfront and perhaps unknown to most tourists is the Maas Pedestrian Tunnel. It was built in 1942 and opened in secret during the war. It's a pretty unique experience taking an antique wooden escalator down below water level to ride your bike or walk under the river to the other side. It's Maas Tunnel, but in Antwerp, this is kind of a tourist attraction. Here, you don't even know anything about it. All right, we're going down this tunnel which goes under the Maas River. Only available for bikes and pedestrians. How you doing? Is this fun? If you're into biking or just this kind of history, check it out. And the best thing is, it's free. All right, so how was that?
I don't care for that.
You didn't like that?
No.
Now, let's touch briefly on the nightlife options around Rotterdam. First up is Wit de Wistra. It's probably the best area in Rotterdam for a dinner and a night out. A close second is Stadhuisplein and Linsbaan Street I mentioned earlier. It's not so far from the main station, and this area has some cool bars and also some higher end clubs and live entertainment. The Old Harbor area is the third area worth considering, and what could be better than some dining and nightlife on the water. Once you've had your fill of Rotterdam proper, don't leave without considering at least one of our top 5 day trip recommendations. First up is Kinderdijk Windmills. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is one of the best windmill villages in all of Holland. And it's a great day trip you can do yourself on a boat from Rotterdam. There are a couple of organized tours which will take you there, but we really recommend doing it yourself by bicycle and ferry. If you'd like to learn more, check out our dedicated mini guide to this day trip. Just search Scottsdale Travel Chick Kinderdijk. Delfshaven and Schiedam are another great day trip option together. Delfshaven is technically a suburb of Rotterdam, but I'm putting it here because it's so different. If you've seen all you want of Rotterdam's modernist architecture and are yearning for some more authentic and typical Dutch style, you'll want to make a visit to Delfshaven. Relatively untouched by the war, you can find some old-style canal boats, drawbridges, and traditional old-style buildings. Okay, we are in Delfshaven, or Delft Harbor, and very original old buildings and boats. Wander around the village area here, but an interesting pro tip is that the original Pilgrim's Church is here. This is the starting point for the pilgrims who came to America. They actually first left here to meet others in England on their way to sailing the Mayflower to the New World. Check it out. Schiedam is right next door and can easily be combined with Delfshaven. It's another small Dutch town definitely worth a walk around with its old-style houses and canals. Schiedam, beautiful canal houses, untouched stuff, a little bit like Amsterdam, so just outside of Rotterdam. And there's a visitor center here which will even give you a small map and offer up some tips. But Schiedam's real claims to fame are its large working in-town windmills and its famous gin called Genevieve. One of the multiple windmills you can explore here is a museum and sells millhouse products, and another is even cooler. It's a sit-down restaurant inside a windmill. I don't know, but this might be the only place in the world where you can have a sit-down dinner inside a real windmill. And we did it. How cool was that? What did you do, babe?
We just had lunch inside a windmill in Holland.
In addition to the nice town and cool windmill experiences, there's also the National Genevieve Museum. Genevieve is a unique Dutch gin, and Schiedam is the most famous place for it. Check out the museum and also pick yourself up some of the world-famous Kettle One, made right here in Schiedam. Finally, two more great options for day trips near Rotterdam, each with their own feel, are Delft and The Hague. Delft is famous for its blue pottery and chinaware, and is only a 30-minute train ride or a 45-minute bike ride away. We'd really recommend the bike ride to get there through the great Dutch countryside. The Hague is kind of an opposite to cozy Delft. It's the third largest city in Holland and another 30-minute train ride away. It's Holland's royal capital, and it's also viewed as an international city and center for law and justice, as the United Nations International Court of Justice is here, as well as Europol, just to name two. Well, there you have it, our visitor guide for the best things to see and do in and around Rotterdam. We hope you enjoyed. Please let us know what you think in the comments section below, and please follow us for more informative travel videos just like this one.
Until next time, see you later.